Hey, what's going on, YouTubers? Okay, I'm going to differentiate this time. I'm going to do a video that I normally would not do. I normally do videos about the Korean War. But I'm going to do a video today about the Gwangju Massacre. Okay, the Korean name for it is Oil-Pal. Happened on May 18th, 1980. Okay, and there's still a lot of questions about the Gwangju Massacre that have not been completely answered. But for all the lives lost there, I need to do the video. And I need to talk about it, and we all, I believe, need to go to Gwangju. We need to go to the 518 Memorial Park and the 518 Memorial Cemetery. I've got a good buddy of mine that's a guide there. And regardless of what political affiliation you are, whatever, your beliefs are about any situation, you need to go, and this will really help you remember and value human life when you go to the Memorial Cemetery and the Memorial Park in Gwangju. Okay. Talk about the event. It's a sad event, but we need to remember it. For a number of reasons, to value democracy, but also to value human life and to value what's really important in life. Okay, and I'll talk to you about that tragic event. Okay. Before May 18th, students from Cheonnam University in Gwangju protested what Chun Doo-won was doing, okay? Choi Kyu-ha was the president at the time, but Chun Doo-won was head of the Korean CIA. He really had all the power. Choi Kyu-ha was nothing more than a figurehead. Well, what Chun Doo-won wanted to do was he wanted to suspend the Yushin Constitution. And now, there were limited liberties in the Yushin Constitution, but there were a few. And let me give you an example. You didn't have to agree with the previous president, Park Chung-hee, in your own private thoughts, okay? You could really not demonstrate publicly against him, but you could demonstrate in the classroom, in the home against him. And Chun Doo-won wanted to do away with that. Okay, the prime example, one of the reasons the students at Cheonnam National University got so upset was because he was trying to detain professors, he was trying to detain journalists, just for their own personal thoughts about the Chun Doo-won administration. Just like example, in the Yushin Constitution, you could enact martial law in every place in South Korea, except Jeju Island. Okay, but he wanted to change that. Chun Doo-won wanted to change that, and he wanted to enact martial law on Jeju Island as well. Okay, all right. Well, when it got to before May 18th, I'm going to say before May 18th. All right, before May 18th, Chun Doo-won ordered the closings of universities, the detainings of journalists, and the detaining of a lot of college professors. Okay. Well, the students at Cheonnam National University did not like that situation. So, before May 18th, Chun Doo-won deployed a lot of soldiers to Seoul, fearful of a student uprising. He also deployed the 33rd and the 35th Divisions of the 7th Airborne Brigade to Gwangju. He deployed them to Gwangju, okay? And when the soldiers got to Cheonnam National University to close the university, they had orders from their commander-in-chief, Choi Kyu-ha, to do it. Directly, though, it more or less came from Chun Doo-won. But they had orders from their commander to do it. And they told the students to leave the university. The students said no. And this is where I'm not picking sides on this. Okay, the soldiers had orders, but the students were protesting an unconstitutional order. Okay? The limited liberties that were granted to them in the Yushin Constitution granted them that university, and it granted them to have the opinions in the classroom. Okay, the liberties were extremely limited in the Yushin Constitution. Okay, all right. And the next thing we're going to go to is the students said no. Soldiers charged the students. Students threw rocks at them. Okay, no shots were fired at this time. The demonstrators were 100 to 200. Demonstrators, okay, at the time. And some of the demonstrators were violent, some were not. Depended on this person, depended on the situation, okay? Eventually, the demonstrators moved to Gumnam Street, okay? Gumnam Road. Okay, now come May 20th, a lot of taxi drivers and a lot of bus drivers were very angry at the way the soldiers were doing the citizens of Gwangju, because what the soldiers doing on May 18th and May 19th, they were not, many of them, not all, but many of them were not making an effort to distinguish between who are the violent demonstrators, who are the peaceful ones, and who are just the innocent bystanders. The police made a very good effort in doing so. And excuse me, I gotta get my coffee, but I'm gonna walk and still make this video. The police in Gwangju made a conscious effort to do so, but the soldiers killed and arrested some cops for that reason. And I'm getting my coffee and walking back here. Okay, and then so the police made a conscious effort in doing so. The soldiers from the 33rd and 35th Division of the 7th Airborne Brigade, they did not make as much of an effort to do so. Prime example, one of my friends, he had a buddy that was just walking. He wasn't demonstrating. He was just walking, and the soldiers arrested him. He spent several months in a South Korean prison, and he was just walking. And then I had another friend of mine, a relative of his was not even demonstrating, but the soldiers busted in his classroom at Cheonam University, and they hit him in the head, and he wound up paralyzed. That happened. And so May 20th, the cab drivers and the bus drivers encouraged the students to continue fighting for democracy, to continue protesting for democracy. And there were some cab drivers and bus drivers that intentionally tried to run over soldiers and police officers. And there were some soldiers that shot cab drivers when the cab drivers tried to assist wounded victims. Both those events happened. All right. Okay. And usually cab drivers and bus drivers are about as apathetic as you can get when it comes to political issues. Not always, but a lot of times they are. Particularly in Korea. And there's a book I read about the Gwangju Massacre that was giving me talk about the normal apathy of bus drivers and cab drivers, but they were outraged at the military's treatment of some of these citizens. Actually, a lot of them. During the Vietnam War, during the Korean War, the South Korean military did great things. They do great things now. There was an 8-year period between 1980 and 1988, but all militaries have, a lot of countries' militaries have this time, and plus they had orders from a commander-in-chief at the time. So it's not to dog anybody. I mean, this is not an anti-anything video. Do not get me wrong. So I'm just reporting the facts. You know, take them and get them. You know, just take the facts and then decide what your own opinion is about things. Okay. All right. Okay. During the time. Okay, and then shortly after May 20th, the citizens were outraged at some of the things that happened. So they broke into arsenals, and they called themselves the Citizens Army, or Shinmingun, the citizens of Gwangju. Well, they beat back the army. And during that time, the citizens of Gwangju governed themselves. The housewives cooked communal meals, and the community bonded together. And there were settlement committees that were formed, and some people in the settlement committee wanted to surrender to the military. Some people did not, and they continued to fight on. Well, the settlement committee voted, and they voted to continue the fight. So the 33rd and 35th Division of the 7th Airborne Brigade came back May 27th, and they defeated the Citizens Army. Okay. Also, but between May 21st and May 27th, when Gwangju governed themselves, okay, yes, a tax office was ransacked. A tax office in Gwangju was ransacked around that time, and also NBC TV station was burned to the ground. But where that happened was NBC only and KBS, the news stations, only reported one civilian casualty, and there were several more civilian casualties. Overall, the government statistics read 154 citizens of Gwangju were killed, 70 were missing. There's another 4,176 that were wounded or injured. Okay. Also, one of the spokesman for the Citizens Army, Yoon Sang-woon, okay. He said in May 27th, he said, "We will be defeated today, but history will lead us to victory." And there was a democracy uprising in Seoul in 1987. And the chant was, or their slogan was, "Remember Gwangju." Okay? This demonstration did not bring democracy to South Korea, as soon. Now, there was a little bit of democracy beforehand. Example, in 1963, Park Chung-hee legally won the Democratic presidential election in 1963. A bit, it was about less than 1% of the vote, but he won it. Also in 1960, Sungmin Rhee was not the president of South Korea at the time. Sungmin Rhee was not being as democratic as he could be, and there was a big student protest in Masan, South Korea, and the student protests were able to get Sungmin Rhee away from power. And so there was a little bit of democracy beforehand, but it was a bit limited. So this event, I'm not going to say it brought democracy, helped bring democracy to South Korea as much as it brought permanent democracy. That's just the take that I get from it, and this is by doing all the research that I've done on this subject, okay? All right, and also, one of the things that the students were very upset about, as well as the citizens of Gwangju, they were upset that Kim Dae-jung got arrested. He was unlawfully arrested for inciting riots. I'm not saying I liked or disliked Kim Dae-jung as the president. That's not what this video is about. But he was unlawfully arrested for inciting riots. He did not incite any kind of riots, and one of their demands was to release Kim Dae-jung, which the government at the time refused to do so. Now, the military did consent to using excessive force. They admitted that some force needed to be taken, but the force was rather excessive. That's one opinion that people have. Some people say the force, some people would say that no force needed to be taken. But you know, rocks were thrown, but at the same time, what the students were protesting, the closing of the Chunam National University, was an unlawful protest. It was an unconstitutional protest. The rights granted to them in the Yushin Constitution, but they were limited. That was a right they had. Okay? Hope everybody's doing well. I advise people to go with somebody who, to the 518 Memorial Cemetery and to the 518 Memorial Park, Oil Pal. 518 is Oil Pal. Another name for the Gwangju Massacre is Oil Pal in Korean, 518 in English. You go to the Memorial Cemetery and the Memorial Park with somebody who thinks differently politically than you do, so you can be bonded together by the common cause of the value of humanity and human life. I'm going back to Gwangju November the 1st, and I'm going to be doing a joint tour guide with a friend of mine, and I'm really a volunteer tour guide. I'm really thankful to be doing this, and you guys will see videos on YouTube. I've been to Gwangju twice. Well, I've been 3 times, been to the Memorial Cemetery twice, the Memorial Park twice. And I really like going, and it's an honor to go. So, hope everybody's doing well, and hope you guys enjoy this video. And oh yeah, and before I let you guys go, the primary weapon that the soldiers used to stop the protest in Gwangju was the truncheon. The truncheon was a long stick. It was about 45 to 70 meters in length and 5 to 6 centimeters in diameter. So the primary weapon that they used was the truncheon. And also the military did, first the victims were buried at, first they were buried in I'm a horrible with pronunciation, so I'm not going to try to pronounce it, but then they were moved to Mangwaldong Cemetery, and then in 1997 they were laid to rest at Il Pal Cemetery, the 518 Memorial Cemetery. And while all this was going on, the bodies were taken to City Hall, and the families had to come to City Hall, to Provincial Hall, to identify the bodies. This was before they were buried even the first time, which was a sad situation. Also, the military set up mass graves for the people who were killed, and some of the families were so broke that they took money from the military. Not all did, and some of the ones that were even broke assumed to starve before doing that. Because around at the time, Gwangju was 30% less developed than the rest of Korea, and the Honam Agricultural Organization really protested that situation, because when Korea got developed between 1960 and 1980, or just around that time, they were digging up a lot of natural resources in Gwangju. And it was at the expense of Gwangju, and the province area was in Jeollanam-do. I'm not saying it was the right or wrong thing, because Korea is an entire country. It's not one province. I'm not saying that. I'm just, you know, reporting the facts and to show you why the students were upset, why the soldiers came, why all that, so you guys can make up your own mind with things. So just remember, human life is precious, and that's what the main video is about. So I hope everybody's doing well. Take care. God bless, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.